Now, a webinar is different to a live in-person event, and there are many different options for engagement. And engagement is so much more important when we are running an online live event versus an in-person live event, because there's so many distractions for people to be taken away from you and your content. And so our run sheet enables us to really embed all the different ways of engagement into the run sheet. Engagement such as chat, such as polls, such as music, such as breakout rooms. All of this needs to go into the run sheet. And so today we're going to talk about the two parts of a run sheet and how we can make sure that we A, engage the senses, and B, take a look at the way that people learn. So making sure that we hit the mark on the visual, the auditory, the kinesthetic, and the digital learners. And all of that goes into our run sheet. So if you've been wondering, how is it that I create this incredible document called a run sheet? I'm going to take you through it in two parts. Part number one is the detail. And the devil is all in the detail. The top section of your run sheet enables you to jot down all the relevant information that we need for this webinar. So the webinar title, the time and date of this webinar, each of the contributors, so yourself, your team, people responsible for the digital, your speakers, making sure that we have all of their names, contact details, and the roles they have been allocated in the top of the run sheet. The other section we need to add to part A is the link to your live stream. So something like the Zoom link, so everybody on your team can have really easy access, because the last thing you want is for somebody to not be able to find how to get on to your webinar on time. And also any other relevant links to your workbook if you've got one, links to your feedback form, links to any additional documents that you may like to share, and even links to a potential Spotify list. So now that you've got all of that devil in the detail at the top, we produce the rest of the run sheet. And the rest of the run sheet is basically a spreadsheet in columns. Column number one is the timing, the start time, the run time, and the end time. It's really possible to create a formula in a spreadsheet or just do it manually for a shorter event. Our next column are the actions. So what is it that needs to be done and in order? So setup, what needs to happen in setup? Start, what needs to happen at start? So that might be chat, that might be music. Welcome, what is being said throughout the welcome? Having our topics in there, reminding the person who's in charge of chat that we need to chat in this section here, and so on and so forth. Making sure that we break it down into relevant step by step, and then basically break it down into our, starting with our setup, then our starting, then our welcome, and then our topics. Then it might be Q&A, networking, etc. Making sure that that central column, the actions column, is fairly detailed, but not over the top, because it does need to be like a single page document, depending on the time obviously spent on your event. Our next section is the ownership. So who is responsible for the actions that are in the action column? So welcome, make sure it's the MC. If it is the chat, make sure it's the person who's responsible for the chat. And remember, those roles have already been allocated in the devil in the detail section of the run sheet. Next column, we have our AV. So if there is any music that you'd like to play, it might be during networking time, it might be during thinking time, it might be at the very start to get our audience ramped up and ready to go. So we have our AV column, and in that AV column you could put in the music that you would like to have happen, and you could potentially even create that music in a Spotify list and be able to share that with your contributors and collaborators. And finally, have a notes column. This will really help either the people who you send the run sheet to, they can put their own notes in there, or you can provide any relevant notes for the individual people in that notes section. So again, timing, action, owner, AV, and notes. Your run sheet is a live action plan. If you've ever created an action plan for your business processes or for your planning, your run sheet is your action plan for what is happening in the webinar. And here's a nice little trick, please, or a tip. Please make sure you align your run sheet with your presentation, and so that it's very, very clear which section of your slides or your presentation is in that run sheet. So there you have it. Run sheets for success, for you to run your next successful webinar. Now again, if you've enjoyed this, please do like and share this video. I always do appreciate getting feedback. So thank you so much for tuning in to Wednesday Wisdom. And remember, you were born to influence your industry.